Now see the first total solar eclipse crossing the United States in 2017. Then there's going to be a second total solar eclipse crossing the United States 7 years later.
What does that mean?
It means buckle your seatbelt, Dorothy, because Kansas is going bye-bye.
Kind of mark out a path of maybe this is where God's focus is, America, time to repent or be judged. And I think that there's going to be an earthquake and maybe an upset military law.
Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies, rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave. Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Military loss for America as well, and plagues.
So let's see, there was this guy predicting that America was going to be judged. This was the end times.
The death toll worldwide was 50 to 100 million. I mean, give or take 50 million. That's how bad it was. So would you say that's a sign that was given to that generation?
This is it! This is the sign!
Yeah, it's a sign, all right. Going out of business.
To say, boy, there's a lot of wickedness here and repent.
Because of signs in the Bible, there's going to be a civil war, a military loss, and a plague because of an eclipse or something.
The sign of Jonah included at least 5 things. You find that there were a series of plagues, civil wars, military loss, a major earthquake, and a total solar eclipse.
Because that's how God communicates to people now. And now maybe he thinks that the old-fashioned ways of just turning up and talking to people are kind of outmoded now. You know, like he used to do in the Bible.
I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob.
In fact, it's one of the most amazing things about the Bible is in the beginning, when Moses leads his people out of Egypt, you know, when God kills all of the firstborn. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and I will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. Yep, that's right, God's going to kill all the firstborn of the beasts. And against all the gods of Egypt I will execute my judgment. I am the Lord. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the house where ye are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you. And the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. You know, that was back in the days when a sign from God was when he talked to you. Which wasn't schizophrenia, of course. But whatever. Back in those times, God physically appears there in the story to all of the people to see, where he's a pillar of smoke and fire. You know, kind of like a volcano. And he performs genuine miracles for them. Nothing obvious, of course, like transporting them to the promised land, which would be safe, efficient, and wouldn't require the needless slaughter of Egyptians. Now, that would be far too obvious. He needs them to wander in the desert for 40 years. In fact, fun fact, it's about 700 kilometers from Egypt to Jerusalem, so it would take you about 2 or so weeks for someone with purpose to walk that. And it took Moses and crew about 40 years, giving him an effective travel rate of about 0.002 kilometers per hour. That's about 20 times slower than a snail. But the miracle he does do for them is he parts the Red Sea for them and makes manna fall from the sky.
The Lord of hosts will do battle for us. Behold his mighty hand.
And then after all of this, Moses leaves them for just a little while to go and actually talk to God. Yes, that's right. In the Bible, to talk to the God that's everywhere, Moses has to climb on top of a mountain. And by the time he gets back, they've decided all that Red Sea parting and manna falling from the sky and actually seeing God there as a pillar of fire and smoke. Nah. All of a sudden, they've decided that they're going to worship a golden calf. I mean, if movies had plot holes this bad, they'd get laughed off CinemaSins.
You know, here's what I don't get about you. You know for a fact that there is a God. You've been in his presence. He's spoken to you personally. Yet I just heard you claim to be an atheist.
And of course, Moses takes the whole golden calf thing in good humour and proceeds to give them a sign by brutally killing 3,000 people, specifically. Then Moses stood at the gate of the camp and said, "Who is on the Lord's side? Let him come unto me." And the sons of Levi gathered themselves unto him.
Last 4 days on Earth? If I had a dick, I'd go get laid. We can do the next best thing.
What's that?
Well, let's kill people. Oh, not you.
And he said unto them, "Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, put every man his sword by his side, and go in and out from gate to gate throughout the camp, and slay every man his brother."
But I do believe in this.
Don't run! Don't run! Finks! Finks! All of you finks! You and your wife!
Don't believe in this. What does that mean?
"And slay every man his brother, every man his companion, every man his neighbour."
Hey, so that's a pretty reasonable reaction, huh?
And the children of Levi did according to the word of Moses, and there fell of the people that day about 3,000 men.
You're a pure soul. But you didn't say God bless you when I sneezed.
Loki?
You're getting off light.
Loki!
I know, I'm coming.
Anyway, back to this guy. And I just want to stress, this guy's beliefs are mainstream. They're not some strange little niche or some bunch of freaks or weirdos like Antifa or social justice warriors or something, where there is zero chance of you actually finding one of their videos with over 1 million hits and a 95% approval rating. This is the 40 or so % of America who think that Jesus is coming back in their lifetime. So in light of that, I'm going to summarize as quickly as I can what happened in the last episode of Why Do People Laugh at Creationists, just to bring us up to speed to the levels of crazy that we're looking at. But if you've got a good memory, or you've just watched the previous video, you can skip forward about 3 minutes.
Now, as I said to you, the Hebrews, every one of their letters means something. Each letter has a gematria value. The last letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Tav. And the letter, or this letter, is associated with the image of a sign. It means a sign. And guess what? Its gematria value is 400.
He then goes on to say that the Earth is the only place in the solar system that gets total solar eclipses.
Do you realize that a total solar eclipse is only possible on Earth? No other planet that we know, certainly no planet that we're aware of in the solar system, can experience a total solar eclipse.
Which is almost as wrong a statement as you can make, with everybody in the solar system, which is a moon, with the exception of Mars, getting total solar eclipses. He then goes on to say that the Earth can only get total solar eclipses because the Earth is exactly 400 times further away than the moon.
But at the same time, the sun also happens to be 400 times farther away than the moon.
Which, of course, it isn't. It varies by about 10%, a mere 40 or so thousand kilometers. He then claims that God communicates with people by signs.
If God had to make signs to wake up the church, I don't think we could get more of a sign. This is more than any generation that we have seen.
Claiming that there was a total solar eclipse sent as a sign to Nineveh.
There was a sign given to Nineveh called the sign of Jonah. Today, Nineveh is called Mosul, so there's Mosul right there.
Except, of course, the total solar eclipse missed Nineveh. I know, details. But if you actually had to be accurate, then you would never find any signs in this strange numerology.
A sign includes things in the sky and gematria, biblical gematria, not some strange numerology. So the solar eclipse happens at the 1st of Elul, which means the harvest begins. The word harvest means gathering of crops, ripened crops, a supply of anything gathered at maturity and stored.
Yep, that's right. God's going to harvest and store your souls. What a nice guy. Bringing some new life to the old Christian saying, the Lord is my shepherd, without realizing the obvious that shepherds eat sheep. You might want to think that metaphor through a little harder.
The verb to harvest means to gather, to reap, to catch, to take, to remove. How interesting.
An interesting prediction, but harvest time happens the same time every year. Even more amazing, he draws the conclusion that the eclipse happens on the 1st of Elul, which is the Hebrew for harvest time.
So the solar eclipse happens at the 1st of Elul, which means the harvest begins.
You're kind of missing the obvious point that the Jewish calendar goes by lunar cycles anyway. So whenever an eclipse happens, by definition, it's the 1st of the month. Till he gets to this level of stupidity.
And by the way, this is also partially scientific because a lot of the geologists, they never can predict earthquakes because they look down. God always says, look up. There are now scientists who are looking up at solar activity, sunspots, coronal hole mass ejections, these things. And then they make predictions of earthquakes, and so far they have been doing it better than people who look down.
Bullshit. By the time it gets to Earth, there's virtually no energy in a solar mass ejection. Now, sure, it can make a mess of electronics, but tectonic plates aren't electronic. They don't conduct electricity. Hell, you can even plot up the earthquakes versus solar flare activity, and guess what? You find there's no correlation whatsoever. Now, as many of you will know, the moon and the sun are key influences on the tides via gravity. And of course, those tides don't occur just in the water, but in the body of the earth. Much smaller, of course. But those body tides do actually cause some stress when the sun and the moon are aligned. But that's more or less what happens every month, every new moon, whether there's an eclipse or not. Further, the effect of that stress on causing earthquakes is tiny. So, for instance, the chances of a large earthquake in California are about 1 in 10 or so years. So that's 1 in every 3 or so thousand days. Now, NASA reckons it might increase the chances of an earthquake by about 3 times. So on the day of the new moon, it'll be about a 1 in 1,000 chance of getting a large earthquake in California. In terms of coin flipping probability, what that means is on your average day, the chances of a large earthquake in California are about those of flipping 12 coins and getting all heads. While on the day of the full moon, it's the equivalent of maybe flipping 10 or so coins and getting all heads.
But I want to show you something else that might be a clue. If you look at the path of totality of the eclipse, and then you look at this earthquake hazard map, which is put out by the USGS, this is FEMA's projected earthquake damage zones. The red would be the worst. Yellowstone's there, New Madrid's there, and the sun marks it out. On the 21st of August, the sun says, we're crossing all of those earthquake zones.
And you'll be stunned to note that in this case, the moon's shadow going over an earthquake zone caused no earthquakes. So much for prophecy. But even at that, so what? We know what causes earthquakes, and it's tectonic plates grinding against each other, not God's judgment.
And tremendous pressure builds up. When the edges of the plates slip past each other, the pressure is released and the ground shakes violently in what we call an earthquake.
So in reality, your prophecy actually boils down to, I predict that there will be earthquakes in earthquake zones. But wait, what's that? You have something new in the description? That you are completely vindicated in your predictions that America would be judged by plagues, earthquakes, and civil wars because there was a hurricane in hurricane season. Let's just do a little fact checking on that.
And I think that there's going to be an earthquake and maybe an upset military loss for America as well, and plagues. I think that a major earthquake or a plague or meteorite strikes are being foretold. And many believers are expecting the rapture. I think that would be a wise thing to prepare for.
Well, plagues are viruses and bacterial infections, microscopic self-replicators. An interesting sign from God, that one. While a hurricane is a giant tropical storm. I'm not so sure I would call that a hit. Or a civil war where a nation fights itself, while a hurricane is a giant tropical storm. Or a meteor impact, which is a rock hitting the earth, while a hurricane is a giant tropical storm. Or an earthquake, which is stress in the Earth's crust being released, while a hurricane is a giant tropical storm. Yes, the fact that there was a hurricane in hurricane season is no more a sign from God than an earthquake in an earthquake zone. Because hurricanes are caused by high humidity over warm oceans, while earthquakes are caused by tectonic stress in the Earth's crust. I mean, yeah, have you never wondered why God's signs don't occur to people who live away from earthquake zones or hurricane zones, or people who have a good supply of antibiotics?
So you put those two together, it looks like there's a cross there, a bullseye. And what is that bullseye? It's very interesting. It's the New Madrid seismic zone. If you look carefully at the map, you see several states have a boundary that's been defined by two rivers. It's the Mississippi, the big one, and the small one is the Ohio. So it crosses, that X marks the spot, goes right over the seismic zone, and it goes over the place where the rivers meet.
Well, I hate to be a stickler for detail, but no, it doesn't go over where the rivers meet. Just like there wasn't an eclipse in Nineveh.
Now, why is this interesting? Because the rivers divide the land into three at that part. Now, the Bible says in Isaiah 18 verse 7, a present will be brought to the Lord of hosts from a people tall and smooth of skin, whose land the rivers divide.
Well, there's a profound biblical prophecy for you. A people from a land whom the rivers divide. Which is only true of every single country on earth.
Whose lands the rivers divide. The Ohio and the Mississippi rivers join at exactly where the paths of totality cross each other.
Actually, it doesn't. It kind of goes near to it. But even if it did, what's your point? That sort of pattern of eclipse goes on year after year. I mean, it happens in 2042, in 2078, in 2158, in almost exactly the same spot. I mean, you really don't have to try that hard to find there are gazillions of solar paths that cross within a decade or so. Like, for instance, in 2205 or 2828, or in the year 2992. And you know what? If you predict a big earthquake with each one of those, you can have about a 1 in 1,000 chance of being right each time.
Revelation 16, verse 17, talks about the seventh bowl. This is the very end of the predictions of Revelation. Then the seventh angel poured out his bowl into the air, and a loud voice came out of the temple of heaven from the throne, saying, "It is done." Verse 20, the final event. And great hail, that's meteorites, fell from heaven upon men.
Actually, no. It says hail, great hail, would fall from the sky, which is ice, frozen water, not rocks. If God wanted to write a book about rocks falling from the sky, you might have thought he would have actually said, and then rocks will fall from the sky.
Men blasphemed God because of the plague of the hail, since the plague was exceedingly great. Got rocks falling on your head? You should know it's time to repent. America is the linchpin hindering the spread of globalism. I didn't say global trade. We like free trade because that's choice. That's not force. But globalism means total political control over your personal data, your personal finance, your personal movement. In one word, your personal life.
Globalist forces that control the Democratic Party and the Republican leadership are launching an attempt at a civil war in America. We have the sources. This guy was connected to Antifa. and connected to Islamicists. That's now emerging. So bombshell event.
So globalism here seems to be some weird libertarian boogeyman.
And some bureaucrat that doesn't know me wants to control everything about me? No, thank you. That's globalism. And America, especially under Trump, is hindering that. Trump is a setback to globalism.
This is being done so they can politically break this country's back and make us domesticated slaves. Bottom line, that's what this type of stuff is for.
What's the New World Order? It's enslaving humanity to the Western banking system.
But the thing that gets me is the sky is entirely white. It's the middle of the day, the sun is out, see it? The sun's out. Everything is as usual except for the fact that the sky is entirely white. They literally have the ability to blot out the sky.
Paul Joseph Watson with Infowars.com. The flagrant and also symbolically hidden nods to Satanism and the Illuminati.
Climate change and global warming is one of the largest hoaxes ever perpetrated upon man. And many people know this.
You know, making women look like whores, forcing them to act in a certain provocative way and then just trying to top it time after time. And it all ties into this objectification of women, which of course has been going on for decades, but it's now to such an intensive level. I mean,
the sky is totally white and nobody even notices, nobody even cares, nobody even looks up. I think it's time we turn the tables because I'm getting sick of being laughed at for being a conspiracy theorist.
You switch on MTV for an hour and it's just hideous. It's like straight out of the pit of hell. But I mean, what message does it send out to young women that are just told the only way to be successful is to act like a complete satanic slut? I mean, what's the agenda behind that message?
I think we need to start laughing at these people a little bit louder.
But this Guardian article, they highlight the claims that pop music and music videos are loaded with occult symbolism, mind control, and that it's all designed to keep the masses watching and consuming it brainwashed and downtrodden.
Because these people, all these asleep sheeple, not only are they going to be victims of the NWO, but they're also perpetrating a crime against us. Their ignorance is allowing this to continue on a mass scale.
And so, you know, we can forget all the vague stuff about backward messages in songs from 30, 40 years ago. That's tame in comparison now.
It's a metaphor of our lives. Try to figure out our lives by just looking at stuff on the earth. And God says to figure out your life, you have to stop looking at stuff here and look up. Look up, look up, look up. That's what Jesus said.
When are people going to wake up? I got a funny feeling that that white shit up there in the sky that's the exact same color as the clouds is going to kill us really slowly.
Because they're throwing it in our faces. This is revelation of the method. And what I'm talking about is Illuminati symbolism, satanic symbolism. And I'm not especially vehemently religious, but this is so flagrantly in our faces, it's impossible to deny.
I'm feeling that that white shit up there in the sky that's the exact same color as the clouds is going to kill us really slowly. And I also think it's probably some sort of mechanism to separate us from God.
Yes, that was Paul Joseph Watson channeling his inner Sarkeesian about the horrendous sexual objectification of women and how it was actually really a satanic plot by the Illuminati. And this is the same guy, some years later, being amused, quite rightly so, by the painful stupidity of the impotent wailing of social justice warriors.
Anti-Trump social justice warriors are planning events across America on the anniversary of the election, during which they will scream helplessly at the sky.
I wonder what he thinks when info warriors do it.
You're going to jail, you New Orleans scum! We got you! We got you! Yeah!
And you thought we'd seen the last of the autistic screeching.
Go home! Go home, you worthless scumbag! Oh, you want your New World Order, huh? Even the cross,
Great video from Dan Dix there, Press for Truth TV.
No, Paul, that's a pathetic band of neckbeard New World Order info warriors impotently wailing and autistically screeching at cars. I mean, really, I never understood why people gave this guy a free pass, simply because in between all of his batshit crazy stuff, he wails on social justice warriors. I mean, I watched 3 videos of his from a few years back, only to be immensely entertained by this from 2011.
And you even have a 58% of Democrats think the country's heading in the wrong direction, so he's lost his base as well. And I mean, that's obviously come about, it's intensified as a result of this debt crisis.
But you know what the White House advisors are saying? Terror attack is the thing that will help Lord Obama.
Well, yeah, numerous White House advisors, former Clinton advisors, have said that the only thing that's going to reverse his fortunes is an OKC-style attack, something similar to the Norway massacre last week. As you get closer to 2012, that becomes an increasing possibility if they do resort to that kind of false flag, because it's the only thing that's going to save Obama now. His credibility is completely shot.
Hey, Nostradamus. Oddly, Obama won the 2012 elections comfortably, both with the popular vote and the Electoral College, and somehow managed to do it without false flag mass shootings or FEMA death camps. And in that exact same interview, Alex Jones is there smugly claiming victory.
I want to play this news clip, though, from 3 years ago about the troops on the street, because now here we are 3 years later, and it's actually happening. We'll be right back with your phone calls.
I mean, you remember 2011 when there were all those troops on the streets and it was the end of democracy in America, right? I mean, it just stuns me how people can make such wildly inaccurate predictions and not have it impact their credibility.
Is it not time for impeachment hearings against Obama? I mean, what do we do politically to really try to prosecute Hillary Clinton?
Well, you remember this, the best thing that we have going with Obama is he's got a year left, okay? Because, you know, by the time you do the hearings and everything, I don't, you know, it's going to implode anyway. In 2017, Obamacare blows up. It's over. I mean, it's over, and everybody knows it, and they're doing big stories. Even the ones that were for it are saying, uh-oh, this isn't working. If you look at anything having to do with Obamacare right now, it's over. Get rid of it, and we can come up with a phenomenal plan that's much better for the people. The people are getting killed with that.
They really know that we've reached the crossroads where the country's done as a third world nation within a few more years. Forget Donald Trump in 4 years. If this happens, we're done. I mean, we're talking about resurrecting the dead here. And there are globalists that want to have a world government, a system run by select crony capitalists, using socialism at the grassroots to make people dependent.
I'm not sure if you go another 4 or 8 years with the insanity and the stupidity of these leaders, I'm not sure you're going to be able to turn it around anymore. I think it could be over.
Question, what type of an elite wants a Cloward and Piven bankrupt the country so socialists can run it and we all get handouts? What type of an elite is that? I mean, you've been around these people. Are they mentally ill, Donald Trump?
Well, we have to make our country rich again. You know, the other day I said to a woman, our budget, at least get it damn close and soon. We're not going to have a nation anymore.
We're a third world country. Donald Trump, you know, you don't want to be free or you're going to be slaves. Donald Trump's agreed to stay a few more minutes with us. And he brought up...
So I wrote a book called Crippled America. It's doing fantastic business. I don't know if you can see that thing right up there.
We can.
But it's doing great business. I hope your audience goes out and buys it as Christmas gifts. I just want to finish by saying your reputation's amazing. I will not let you down. You will be very, very impressed, I hope.
That maybe I should just drink fluoride and take all the vaccines and just get cancer and die and just worship the government and just die of cancer and worship tyranny and worship Satan. And just worship all the babies, you know, worship the government killing the babies and selling their body parts. And be glad little kids are dying everywhere of bone cancer from fluoride in the water. It is absolutely in the crystalline form, the strongest. You absorb it. So, folks, don't go out to the store and get iodine from, say, one of the big chains. It'll kill you.
And America, especially under Trump, is hindering that. Trump is a setback to globalism and its anti-family, anti-liberty, anti-Christianity agenda. And this is why the elites hate him.
Cool. So Trump's going to be a setback to globalism's anti-family agenda, meaning, of course, that he's pro-family. Not I thought he was on his third wife, but whatever. And what evidence does he present that globalism has an anti-Christian agenda? Well, none. And what evidence does he present that globalism has an anti-family agenda? Well, none. And what evidence does he present that globalism has an anti-liberal agenda? Well, none. But other than that, his argument is entirely correct.
The Republican elite hate him as much as the Democrat elites. That tells me he has to be good. If those people hate him, I like him.
Oh, simply joyous. The Democrats hate him and the Republicans hate him, so you know he must be good. I mean, let me just tell you who else was hated by the Democrats and the Republicans. I mean, let me just state the God-winningly obvious. Hitler. So what does that tell you about Hitler?
They then used the United States to basically take over the world. The same banks were financing Hitler and the Soviets. That's why they always win. They finance everybody.
What's the New World Order? It's enslaving humanity to the Western banking system. Don't you know that's what's happened? The Republican elite hate him as much as the Democrat elites. That tells me he has to be good.
Or even better, what about Cold War Russia? I guess you must think that they're good too. Or what about North Korea? Or ISIS? Or Al-Qaeda? Yeah, sure, the Republicans and the Democrats hate them. Therefore,
that tells me he has to be good. If those people hate him, I like him. Something that God created. God made nations. National sovereignty is a godly idea, but it's a roadblock to the New World Order.
No, not really. The only time this really crops up in the Bible is when God tells Moses, after they've wandered in the desert for some 40 years, a trip that should take about 40 days, that he's going to give them the land of Israel. And all they've got to do is kill everyone who's there or move them off and take their land. That's how God gives people land in the Bible. No, I know. Technicalities that nowadays we would call that ethnic cleansing and genocide.
The main enemies of globalism are Trump, Russia, Syria, and China. In fact, if Trump's getting educated fast, he likes to talk with people, he likes to hang out with people who have the right information.
No, Trump is an idiot who has learned nothing. I mean, surely it must be obvious to everyone by now that Trump is just a platitude and insult-spewing automaton. It's his substitute for actual achievement. If Trump doesn't like something, that it's sad, pathetic, crooked, you just won't believe how bad it is. And if he likes it, then it's great, terrific, wonderful. You just won't believe how amazing it is. Trump is just a very good used car salesman.
At Trump University, we teach success. That's what it's all about, success. It's going to happen to you if you don't learn from the people that we're going to be putting forward, and these are all people that are hand-picked by me.
Well, according to his own depositions, he did not personally select instructors for live seminars.
Then you're just not going to make it in terms of the world of success.
Many instructors and mentors had no experience buying or selling real estate. In fact, one had worked as a salesman for Lowe's and another had been manager for Buffalo Wild Wings.
We started looking at Trump University and discovered that it was a classic bait and switch scheme. It was a scam, starting with the fact that it was not a university.
You must be very aggressive. One passage from the playbook reads, if they complain about the price, remind them that Trump is the best.
Nobody can do it like me. Nobody. Nobody can do it like me. Honestly.
Nobody's stronger than me.
Nobody has better toys than I do. There's nobody bigger or better at the military than I am.
Nobody loves the Bible more than I do.
You might laugh, but that is the same technique that Trump has been using to run for president, and apparently it f***ing works.
Nobody builds walls better than me. Nobody's better to people with disabilities than me.
Nobody's fighting for the veterans like I'm fighting for the veterans.
There's nobody that's done so much for equality as I have.
Because the playbook tells his salespeople, you don't sell products, benefits, or solutions. You sell feelings.
There's nobody more pro-Israel than I am. There's nobody more conservative than me. There is nobody that respects women more than I do.
Nobody would be tougher on ISIS than Donald Trump.
Nobody's ever had crowds like Trump has had.
There's nobody that understands.
If they complain about the price, remind them that Trump is the best.
The horror of nuclear better than me. Nobody even understands it but me. It's called devaluation.
Nobody knows more about trade than me.
Nobody knows the game better than I do.
Nobody's in the history of
this country has ever known so much about infrastructure as Donald Trump.
Nobody knows politicians better than I do.
Nobody knows more about taxes than I do.
Nobody knows more about debt than I do.
Nobody knows the system better than me.
Sorry, Trump is not running some sophisticated game of 4D chess here. No, he's not learned anything. Look, realistically, people's ability to reskill becomes progressively less with age, which is why the current president of the United States can't even use email.
But take it from me, if he just watched this video, he would know. If you just make an alignment between America, Russia, China, and Syria, globalist power is over until the tribulation, until Christians are out of here.
What? Syria is essentially a failed nation with less than 20 million people in it. Why do you need them in this strange alliance? An alliance between Trump and the quasi-dictatorships of Russia and China.
My last point here is, a lot of people will say, God will not do this. God's not going to judge America. And in a certain sense, it's true. It's not yet the time that God's going to judge America. We use this term loosely, God's judging. Well, not really. It's just you're reaping what you sow. There's a quote that's attributed to him, ascribed to him. America is great because America is good. So the American brand of Christianity is pretty near heretical. The pulpits are not fiery like they were in 1776.
Cool. So when America was good, it had slavery. But hey, maybe you don't believe America was bigly into slavery when it was founded. So let's just see what Trump had to say about George Washington.
No, George Washington was a slave owner.
And then he made this prediction: when America ceases to be good, America will cease to be great.
How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him? Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner.
And of course we have these inspired words from Prager University, which, just like Trump University, also isn't a real university.
The one thing God declares is that he took the children of Israel out of slavery and into freedom. That's how much God hates slavery and how important God considers freedom. The founders of America based their entire view of America on this belief.
Yep. Trump has absolutely no problem in bashing the founding fathers, but for some reason gets all butthurt when someone takes a knee in the game, because that's disrespecting America, which is bad, unless of course he's doing it.
Do you respect Putin?
I do respect him.
Do you? Why? Putin's a killer.
A lot of killers. We got a lot of killers. Why, you think our country's so innocent?
But look, I've got an assessment that's based a little more on reality. Trade is what made America great, and it was greatly helped by World War II, which essentially trashed Europe and saw the end of the British Empire. Now, the balance of that trade is shifting more to places like China. Basically, after World War II, America had relatively little competition. Now it has lots of real competition.
And as difficult as it is to even imagine, to conceive that judgment could fall on America on the order of a major earthquake.
Dude, just stop already. Earthquakes are caused by stress in the Earth's crust, not because God is angry. Thunder is not God bowling. Rain is not God crying or taking a whiz. Volcanoes are not when God pops a zit. Snow is not when God gets dandruff. Hurricanes is not when God sneezes. And earthquakes are not when God is angry.
Judgment could fall on America on the order of a major earthquake, major meteor hit, something catastrophic like that. It does look like America has turn her back on what made her good. And I think there's hope for America. I think if they pray and repent, you know, Trump is a great anti-establishment leader, so you don't have to be hoodwinked by the media and by the elite politicians.
Yes, who needs politicians when you're going to be used car salesman as president? I mean, how bad can it be having an idiot who doesn't understand anything in charge?
Now, I have to tell you, it's an unbelievably complex subject. Nobody knew that healthcare could be so complicated.
You know, healthcare is complicated because our healthcare system is so complex. I suffer no illusions that this will be an easy process. Once again, it will be hard. Healthcare is complicated stuff.
Nobody knew that healthcare could be so complicated.
Very simple. I think that the President of the United States should be smarter than I am. That's it. Very simple.
In fact, many of the things that Trump has said are so out there that people have actually resorted to saying that he's just pretending to be stupid. So I don't know, was he just trolling when he made the baseless accusations that Obama was tapping his phone? Or was he just trolling with all the birther antics? You know, like an extremely credible source called my office and told me that Barack Obama's birth certificate is a fraud.
It is the 27th of April, 2011. And as the headline reads, the newest Obama birth certificate that's been released by the White House has been altered in literally dozens of ways.
Here's the article on InfoWars. Obama birth certificate raises as many questions as it answers by Paul Joseph Watson.
And what I'm talking about is Illuminati symbolism, satanic symbolism. This is so flagrantly in our faces, it's impossible to deny.
How amazing, the state health director who verified copies of Obama's birth certificate died in a plane crash today. All others lived. Or when he claimed he had the largest crowds in history. Or when he said that Mexico was going to pay for the wall.
Okay, you ready? Who's going to pay for the wall? Who? 100%. 100%.
I mean, was he just trolling when he said he knew better than the generals?
We have great generals. We have great generals.
You said you knew more than the generals about ISIS.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I probably do, because look at the job they've done.
Or was he just trolling when he said that NATO was obsolete? Or was he just trolling when he said he only said that because he didn't know much about it?
And when you see it coming and you go, la-di-da, you know, same old, they've been predicting the end of the world. I didn't predict the end of the world. I'm predicting judgment upon a nation that's turned away from God. We need to take that seriously. We need to tell people. God speaks. God does predict, and he's never stopped. And I'm not trying to be right. I wish I was wrong.
Well, I've got good news for you. You were wrong.
Solar eclipses are going to fall on the date, judgment on that date? Probably not. If it does, it'd be pretty undeniable. But God has a leeway. These signs come. You saw since Nineveh. You saw in World War I. There's a leeway of months. Something's coming.
Cool. So let me see if I can make a prediction that shows that Potato Jesus actually exists. And he's going to curse America by a drought that will stop them from growing potatoes in 2018. Now, will it be in 2018? Probably not. But if it was, it would be pretty undeniable. I mean, Potato Jesus has some leeway here. After all, he is Potato Jesus. I mean, you've seen all those previous droughts that hit America, right? And yet you still deny the evidence and turn away from Potato Jesus.
The 21st of August, 2017 to the 8th of April, 2024 appears to be a 7-year countdown.
What? Dude, you claimed that you were vindicated in the description because a week or so after the eclipse, in the middle of hurricane season, there was a hurricane. You claimed that was the judgment. And now you're saying that this judgment might happen sometime in the next decade or so.
Huge earthquake happening there would split the nation into 3. That's what new America would look like.
Yeah, sure. But in your description, you claim victory because of a hurricane. Now that's an interesting map because large portions of Central America are a mile or so above sea level. There is no plausible way that they're going to get under water. Now in reality, of course, what's just happened here is someone's just put a blue mask over portions of America and just inked in bits of America to make it look like it's underwater. However, that image did seem a little specific, so I did a reverse image search on it. And guess what? This isn't quite a genuine prediction for the 2017 eclipse. It's been kicking around since at least 2012. And the original goes all the way back to 1990. Some guy predicted this would happen in 1990. That's almost 30 years ago.
And when you see it coming and you go, la-di-da, you know, same old, they've been predicting the end of the world. Can't make this stuff up. Split into 3 like that. Is that what I'm prophesying? No. I'm just saying that's entirely possible, and it would be wise to make some preparations.
Oh, you absolute wuss. You spend all of this time saying that things are going to happen because it's biblical prophecy and God is so clear about these things. But then you cover your ass and say, it might not be going to happen. Well, I can play this game. Potato Jesus. There's going to be a big international sign and it's going to be given to the world tomorrow. Now, do I believe there's going to be a big international sign? No. But I think it would be a wise thing to prepare for. Wow. Genius prediction there, dude. And before I leave you with one last epic moment of Zen, let me just say a big thank you to all those who support this channel through Patreon. And if you want to support sane media like this, you'll find the links below.
Remember, 22 is the number of? Anybody alert here? I've had this book out for 10 years. Do my church members read this? 22, number of the Jews. Wash me clean. Make me your own.
Great wall of prophecy, reveal to us God's will that we may blindly obey.
Free us from thought and responsibility.
I commit my life to you. I'm entirely yours from this day forward.
We shall read things off you.
Then do them.
Your words guide us.
We're dumb.
Guide me and lead me. Take me to the right church. Give me new and better friends.